I've been tinkering on a few things here in the Travelall, hanging out with a friend, just kind of doing a bit of this and a bit of that. Nothing really super serious. But let's take a look at what we've gotten taken care of. I'm falling out. There we go. Alright, so that's the air conditioner heater unit right there. This floor pan is pretty much ready for install. Need to do a little grinding along here. I drilled one hole in the wrong place, so I've got to fix that before I weld this down in. And then that pan will be ready. I also went through and modified the floor here. There was this kind of bump in the floor that I was dealing with, and after talking to my buddy and just looking at the different ways to deal with it, it ended up being the easiest and fastest way to deal with it was to remove it. So now I've just got to grind those welds back a little bit, and that'll be good. We're doing the same thing over here, but this panel I've not yet cut and welded in, so it's just one more thing that does have to happen. I'm just going to buckle down and push through the last of the prep on these, I think. So after applying all this goo and waiting for it to at least skin over some, it's occurred to me that I am an idiot. I started applying this in the first place specifically to this seam because I was like, oh, I should apply it to that seam because that's going to be covered later and I won't have the chance to. I designed this floor pan to weld directly to that bar right there. I won't be covering that at all. I could have come in at any time to have done that. Now with all that crap there, if I try to weld it, I'm going to light something on fire. So, now I need to go back and scrape every bit of that out. I'm going to let all of that continue to cure, as well as what's along there to cure a little more before I try getting any friskier over there. With the other side continuing to dry, I'm going to move over to here. Try and figure out a few more things here, like getting this plate welded into the floor pan here. While I was welding that panel in, camera quit recording, didn't notice. I haven't done a whole lot more though since. So, that panel is now fully installed. I've made some marks where the other panel lines up over it, so I'll probably cut this back, maybe even all the way here. But the rest of this I'm going to do a lap weld. Got actually really close to the edge there, I didn't notice, but oh well. So I'm just going to clean that all up. And then I squished some goo into some areas over there. This floor panel is getting pretty close to ready to install. And all of this over here has dried at least halfway decently. So with that done, then I guess I might actually be ready just about to install this. Well, I have done a spectacularly piss-poor job installing this panel. I don't know what my deal was. Shit. It's okay along here. It's okay along the spot welds. but the gap over here is much larger than it ever has been, so it means I've got the panel slightly tweaked just enough to screw with it. But unfortunately, I welded a couple of these spot welds pretty solid, and getting those ground out is just gonna suck. So I think, despite the fact that it's kind of crap, if I can get this to weld, I'm just gonna roll with it. If I can't get that to weld, I've got to cut this panel out and clean that whole area anyway. So it just is what it is. Maybe I'll just cut a box around each of these. Alrighty, let's see what happens next. Floor pans are in. This one I had to hammer down quite a bit. I ended up putting the body drop down too high up, so I really had to hammer it down to get it to fit everything, but ended up working out. Yeah, everything seems good. I didn't do anywhere near the number of spot welds across the back I had originally planned. It just seemed like a waste. I didn't want to do that much damage to the exterior. And otherwise, I stitch welded everything else, hammered that up into place, and welded over it. So I will seam seal all of this as best I can from underneath. But that is that finished wheel well. And that, or I'm sorry, floor pan. And that is that finished floor pan. Ugh. And that is a huge freaking mess inside the Travelall I need to get cleaned up soon. Alrighty, folks, where are we? We've jumped forward in time. Last thing you saw was me making some measurements and marks on this floor panel, the center floor panel here. So, in the intervening time, I have gone through and drilled a ridiculous number of plug weld holes. 49 of them on just this panel to be exact. I counted. So I've got all the grinding back done. I've got all the plug weld holes drilled. I cleaned them up on the backside, put some primer over the bare metal. You can also see I've got some bare spots ground onto this. Those are for these little units. I just made up 2 of these. We'll go with calling them pseudo body mounts. They're just a chunk of some square pipe that I cut, or rectangle pipe that I cut. We've got a chunk of old tire just screwed to the bottom of them as a rubber bushing. I have a tire that the tread is separated in the sunlight, just sitting in the backyard, so I went ahead and just cut a chunk out of that. So the point of those is to take care of a problem I didn't realize I'd created, but someone recently pointed it out to me over on Binder Planet, the International Harvester forum, where I'm also posting this build. So what they pointed out was, I'm sitting on the tailgate, just a sec. So what they pointed out was this genius idea of mine. These brackets that I have on either side. Hell, look at all that dust. It looks like it's snowing in here. So, these brackets that I put in a while back, they hold up the back of the Travelall, and I put them in so that I could remove the interior bracing and build those wheel wells and floor pans and all that fun. I actually intended to leave them in place, but someone recently pointed out that this panel effectively connects the Travelall body directly to the frame. There's no rubber isolator bushings on this bumper here, so it's effectively directly to the frame. And that was likely going to cause massive vibration and everything like that. So, he's right. That guy was completely right. I hadn't even thought about that being a problem, but it really is very much a problem. So, I am going to, once I finish the floor pan, just cut this free on both sides to eliminate that problem. But just in case what I've built isn't really strong enough to hold up the back of the Travelall, that's what these will do. These are going to get welded in place right there, and they'll act as supports that just hold up the back end weight without hopefully any problems. We're not that far from the factory body mounts. That right there, even though you can't see anything, you get in there and see it at all? Not really. But right there, my finger is touching it, is the factory body mount. At the very back of the Tallhoe, we're about a foot farther out at the farthest, so it's not a huge amount of overhang, but there is some overhang. So these will serve the purpose of, if the body tries to settle at all, these will hold it up. Even though they won't bolt it to the frame, they'll hold it up, and it will still be plenty securely fastened to the frame by all the original Tallhoe body mounts. So that's the purpose of these. I described it a while back, but there's also a reason I've left the Tallhoe bumper in place. It's not just because it was hard to remove. The actual reason that I left it in place is because of this. This whole hitch assembly is fully integrated into this back bumper. If I were to try to remove the bumper, I would have to build an entirely new hitch assembly framework back here to hold that all up. So that just didn't seem like it was worth the effort. This is fully assembled. It's completely rated for weights and all of that kind of fun. So I know this can do what I'm going to need from it. So because of that, I chose to leave that intact. That's actually why this bumper is still on here and now being used as a piece of my quote-unquote frame. So there's a few things left to do before we can actually install that chunk of floor pan. I need to clean up these edges here. I need to mark out where all the holes go and clean those spots. Also, I have spot welds, come on. I have spot welds along here that connect to this reinforcement bar that the hinges are supported by. Those have to be ground back, and then all of that get painted because this panel overlaps that lip. We'll get those lapped back so they're all totally flat. We'll get that all painted. There's some rust on the inside. It's not too terrible, but we'll clean it up as best we can and hit it with some rust primer as well, just to cover it. And then hit it with some paint under there. Time to get to work on them. Whew, boy howdy. Heat I put into that made some big ol' humps in this thing. I'm gonna have to do some beating to get that back out of it. That grinder blade just slipped and went in deep. Oh, jeez, that was bad. Oh. 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 Better go bandage that one. Looking at where the camera was before I've repositioned it, I'm not even sure if you guys saw that, but it's all bandaged up and we're good to go now. That one was pretty deep. I'll post a photo right here of exactly what happened. It's pretty ugly. It cut like full through the side of my finger and into the nail bed. That was a good one. I already took some pain meds. It doesn't hurt yet. I think my finger's still in shock, but yeah, I think that one's gonna hurt for a few days. Yeah. Seems like I bled the Travelall a little bit. Oh well. Let's get back to it and finish this job. It's not actually quite long enough up in these corners, so I'm going to have to fill a few of the holes that I drilled and just stitch along the edges. It is what it is. Jeez. Can you guys see all the blood? Apparently this thing isn't as well shaped as I thought. Now that I've got it aligned, it's tight along this side, tight-ish here, and a quarter out almost back here. So, unfortunately, I'm probably just going to have to slice it down the middle so I can tip it in. Yeah, I guess that's where we are. this welding done, that's all the rear floor pan. The wheel wells are done, floor pan is done. This is all installed. So that is awesome. I am super excited about that. And it seems like that's all really strong. There we go. Now it doesn't have that metallic rattle. I was a little worried, but it was just the hammer. So we've got all of that in place. My next thing is there's a lot of grinding to do back here still. I've got welds up over the wheel arches that are ugly. I've got a lot of welding here. So next step, we're just going to get that all ground back. It's a lot of work to get done, so I'm just going to tuck straight into it. There it is. Saved you guys from a couple of hours of grinding and vacuuming and actually cleaning out all the surprisingly huge amount of crap I had allowed to accumulate in there. I filled like this whole tailgate area with stuff, throwing it out before I put it all away. I was surprised by just how much crap I had in there. But we got it all out. So at this point, we are officially finished with the actual metal work for this whole rear end. This is all done, every bit of it. So those floor pans are fully welded in. We're going to go ahead and call this episode right there. I just want to say thanks everyone for watching. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor and hit that button. Leave a comment, hit the thumbs up. All those things are super helpful and I really do appreciate it. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.